forgot to activate it. Sorry, my actions are off. I put it all up at once. Okay, so here's my example, guys. Okay, one of the other things that leads to our demand is marginal utility. And Sam mentioned utility as far as determining your demand for things. And remember we talked about utility from chapter 1. And we talked about utility is the satisfaction a person gets from a particular product. Here we're talking about marginal utility. Do you remember when we talked about marginal benefit and marginal cost? What does marginal mean?
Satisfaction of one more.
Okay, so the marginal part is one more. In this case, additional. One more, additional. So marginal utility is the additional satisfaction a person gets from one more unit of a product. So what we mean by that is that how much happier am I because I got one more piece of pizza? How much happier am I because I was able to buy one more pair of shoes? How much happier am I because I got to go to one more movie? Fill in the blank. Okay? Now, we also have what we call the law of diminishing marginal utility. So, this is the idea that the additional satisfaction you get from each additional unit will eventually decline. And it usually will kind of increase for a little while, and then it'll drop off and it'll decrease. And I have my example up there, so it's kind of already foretelling you of my story. But my story that I always tell when I talk about the law of diminishing marginal utility is about my brother. My brother is now 30 years old, but when he was younger, he was one of those kids that was like a bottomless pit of a stomach. Okay, were any of you like this or knew someone like this where it doesn't matter how much they ate, they seemed to always be hungry and they never got like fat from it or anything? Yes? Okay, you know some people like this? My brother was this bottomless pit of a stomach, and he was a swimmer. And so, I mean, he was to the point of, like, when he'd be wearing his suit to practice or to a meet or whatever, I mean, you could go and, like, count his ribs, right? Because he's just a little skinny, scrawny little thing. Well, at the same point in time, my brother loves, he loves specific foods. He, like, focuses on specific foods. And when he was about, I think I always have to clarify this with him, I think when he was about in 7th grade, he heard about a place in our local town called Smokies, and it was a dive. Guys, it was a dive. This place called Smokies was a dive. It was one of those places where you would go in and my uncle would always refer to these kinds of places as where you would have to wear your boots to. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Okay. It's kind of questionable. But one of their gimmicks at Smokies is that they were known for two things. Number one, they were known for their commercials. It was a local place, so it was one of those local commercials that was really, really bad. But people liked it because it was so bad. And he would always do some sort of different thing. The owner of Smokies was this balding, middle-aged, overweight white guy. Okay? And Smokies, he would always have some sort of commercial where he'd end up in some sort of scenario, and the end of the commercial would say that he's going to Smokies. For example, there's one where he's supposedly stranded on, and they also always have the other theme to his commercials was he always had some young girls there that were like, usually scantily clad. So one commercial was where he was on a deserted island and with this, girl in a bikini, and they're talking about that they're stranded on this island and they don't know how to get off, blah, blah, blah. And it ends up where he's wading into the water and she's like, Pumpkin, where are you going? He's like, I'm going to Smokies to go get the best steak I've ever had, blah, blah. This is the kind of commercial that they had, okay? So this is the kind of place it is. It's kind of a seedy place and you're just like, ew. Okay, but one of the other things they were known for is they offered a 52-ounce steak. Okay, now to give you a reference point for those that are not so sure about steaks, 52-ounce steak. So for those that don't eat steak a whole lot. If you order steak at a restaurant, how big is your steak going to be? 8 to 12. 12 would be like at a steakhouse. I mean, like if you go to like Applebee's or whatever and you order steak, it's probably going to be like, 6 or 8 ounce steak. Okay? You go to a steakhouse, you might get 12. This was a 52 ounce steak. Now, now the disappointing part that always disappoints people when I tell the story is everybody's just like, oh my God, how big was this? No, you have to understand, the disappointing part, it was not one steak. It was several steaks added up to 52 ounces. Okay? Now, the idea behind this is that you order this, you get the steak, okay? You don't just get beef. You go and get the side and a vegetable, some sort of potato and a vegetable, obviously you get to pick. But it was kind of like a food challenge, like the Food Network challenge, okay? So you're supposed to go and eat the whole thing, and if you eat the whole thing, okay? No. You get a t-shirt. But, so if you order it and you do not get the whole, you order it, you do not eat the whole thing, you get this baby blue t-shirt and it says, I attempted to eat the 52 ounce steak at Smokies. Okay? And if you eat the whole thing, you get this red manly t-shirt that says, I ate the 52 ounce steak at Smokies. This is the preface. Okay? So, my brother, okay, he's in 7th grade. He's like 13, 12, 13. He wants to go there. He heard about this, he's like, I want to do it. He loves steak, loves to eat, right? So I'm drawing this story out for a reason. My parents made a deal with him because he was never the best student, and they said, okay, if you get your grades up, we will take you. Okay? My parents are very good at the deals, but they are not very good on the follow-through. And the reason I say that is that he had no idea when he was going. So one Saturday, after he'd already eaten a breakfast with several bowls of cereal, and a lunch where he ate an entire frozen pizza by himself, and I'm not talking the one that's for individual people, I'm talking the one that's supposed to feed like 3 to 4 people, okay? They decide for dinner, they're like, we're not doing anything for dinner. Hey, Jeremy, you want to go to Smokies tonight? He's like, yes! Remember, he's 12 or 13, okay? So, they take him to Smokies. I was not there to witness this. I refused to go on principle because, like I said, the place is offensive to me, okay? But they go, not only did my brother eat all 52 ounces, he ate all of the sides and all of the vegetables, and he got the lovely t-shirts. Okay? How much is it? I asked my parents that, and they don't remember. But remember, it's a seedy place, so I'm guessing it's not very expensive. It's not the best place in the world, and that's why I gave you all that preface about the kind of place. Now, the reason why this relates to the law of diminishing marginal utility, afterwards I talked to him, I said, Jeremy, how was it? And he said, you know, the first about 40 ounces went down nice and smooth. After that, the last 12, I kind of had to choke down because obviously he's getting full, but also he's like, you know, it doesn't taste as good anymore. Okay? That's the law of diminishing marginal utility. The more and more you consume of it, the less and less tired, the more tired you get of it, the less and less you like it. I'm not saying you don't still like it, but your kind of utility declines a bit. Your satisfaction declines a little bit. So, by the way, there's the picture of Smokies restaurant. I actually found a picture on the internet. And by the way, I thought about it, but they do have their commercials. I told you their commercials are really bad and really lame. If you Google Smokies in West Fargo, North Dakota, you will find some of the terrible commercials that they made. They are on YouTube, just saying. Okay, so that was Smokies. Here's another example, another Calvin and Hobbes example. So this one actually has Hobbes in there. So here we go. We have Calvin pouring a bowl of cereal, and he says, another bowl of chocolate frosted sugar bones. Okay? The second bowl is always the best. He says, the pleasure of my first bowl is diminished by the anticipation of future bowls, and by the end of my third bowl, I usually feel sick. Calvin says, maybe you shouldn't use chocolate milk. Calvin says, I tried cola, but the bubbles went up my nose. As a parent, that's incredibly funny and disgusting. So, this gives you an idea of the law of diminishing marginal utility, which also adds to why you decrease the amount of products that you are willing to purchase. In order for you to purchase more, the price has to go down. Okay? Anybody have any questions about the law of diminishing marginal utility or marginal utility as a whole? Okay.